Chris here. Welcome. Chris Petri here. This is a beautiful interior painting we're going to create today, so buckle in, get ready. We have the whole enchilada for you today. We're going to discuss all of the methods and techniques you need to create this wonderful interior painting with gorgeous light coming through. This is an interior scene with a large window, a door, and the interior walls and floor. You're going to have a fun time doing this. It's a fun way to just create some beautiful light. We're using the glazing technique. So when you use the glazing technique, we cover that here all the time on my channel. So if you're familiar with my channel, you'll be comfortable with that technique and that method. If not, you're going to see how easy it is, and you'll watch along here, and you'll wind up at the end of this video. By the end of this video, you're going to have painted this beautiful scene. So get ready. We're going to do some pencil drawing first, and then we'll do our painting. You'll see how we do it all here. And I want to just thank you so much for coming by. And watercolor is all about having fun. So if you're looking to have a fun part of your life where you can de-stress and not have all the anxiety and stresses of the world, you start out with watercolors, you start working on it, you'll lose yourself, you'll have fun, you'll forget about all the other worries and cares in life, and you'll just have a great time creating artwork. And then you can just go step by step, and eventually you'll be having lots of fun time and many hours of the day doing painting in watercolor, where you're having a lot of fun and you won't be worrying too much about things because you're going to be totally zoned in and excited about watercolors. So that's my goal, is to get you up and running and started with your painting. And let's do it here. Be right back. We'll start with our pencil drawing, and happy painting. We'll see you in a second. Okay, we're starting our pencil drawing right now. You just saw the finished painting. Now this is a really fun painting where we're going to actually key in on beautiful, powerful sunlight coming through a window. So it's kind of like a composition. It can be, obviously we can create, this is a beautiful painting in itself, but the key is, let's focus in on the light, the powerful sunlight coming through the window in this room. So we have a room with a door and some walls, and we have a window on the right-hand side. Let's we'll key in on the light of this painting. So that's the main thing we're going to learn here, is how to really capture beautiful light in our paintings with a simple interior painting. So this is basically an interior painting with powerful light coming through a window, and let's see how it goes. So the first thing we're going to do is we have our rectangle here with our tape. Maybe I'll go around with my pencil so we can kind of see the border a little better. So I'll just do the border like that. And then what I'll do is I'll keep the I'm going to keep the wall over here like so. So this is going to be the dark part of the wall, so to speak. And then we're going to have the window tapering down on about a 45-degree angle. So what I usually do is I'm working from a photograph, but I really can't show the photograph because it might be a copyright issue. I don't want to get in trouble, have my YouTube video canceled or deleted from here. So I'm just going to go with the flow here. When we're done with the painting 100% and we're done completing the whole painting, you can take a screen capture of that on your phone or your iPad or your home computer, your laptop or your desktop computer. And I've covered that in a video I created called doing screenshots. You just type in Chris Petri screenshots or screen capture. Those few words, you'll get the video, and you can kind of follow along, and it'll explain how to be able to do screen captures or screenshots from your portable mobile devices or your laptops or your home computers. This way you can freeze the picture, take a capture of it, and then you can use that as a photo to work from. Digital image, I should say. Okay, so what I do is I just hold my pencil up to the picture in front of me and say, what's that angle? What's that angle on that top of that window in this interior room space? And when I look at it, I kind of see it's about a 45-degree angle. So then I look up there at the picture, and I say, okay, let me just bring that down the same angle here. 45, like this. And I do that. And I do a 45-degree angle like that. And then I kind of just ask myself, how far does this window on the top portion of the window, how far does it come into the room here? And I notice it's not a tremendous amount. It's only about a quarter of the way. So I look up to the paper, the top of the, actually I'm working from a photograph or a picture. So I'm looking at my picture and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to hold my pencil up to the picture and say, how far over is this line here where the edge of the window is on this side, the left-hand side of that window? And then if I look at it carefully, I can kind of see it's about a quarter of the way. So if I take my rectangle here, which is a portrait orientation, so we have a portrait orientation, which means our painting is vertical versus horizontal, like a landscape. So landscape orientation is when your rectangle is going this way, long ways, on the horizontal. And then if you have a portrait style painting, that means your rectangle is going to be standing upright in an upright position like this, like a portrait style. And that's what we're doing here, a portrait style painting. So I'm looking at the top of my painting and saying, well, where is that window, this edge of this window here, where is that? And I see it's a quarter of the way. Here's a quarter here. So if I look at this as 1/4, we would say 1/4, 1/4 here. This is 1/2 of the way across. This is 3/4, and this is a full span across the entire sheet on this level here, this portrait style painting. So if you look at it as an inch, like let's say you're used to working in inches, you can convert this to centimeters or the metric system. But basically you're just going quarters or or 2.25, 0.50, 0.75, or 1.0, 1.0. So you have a full measurement here, and you just break it down into 1/4 or 0.25s going across. So this one could also be 0.25, 0.50, 0.75, and then 1.0. So you can kind of see how that works, right? And then we're going to take that line, and we see it's about a 3/4 or 0.75 across the sheet, like this, on the vertical. And that's all I do. And I just take this, and I notice it's a little bit on an angle this way. So we're just going to have this angling just a touch this way. So it's not a perfectly straight line. It's a little bit this way, but very, very slightly. So if you recall that, you'll be very, very keyed into what the actual painting is looking like and the angles are. So here I notice I'll do a little bit of erasing here. There's a small basket here, so we're going to do the basket like that. And we got a basket here, and then there's another. And this is maybe a little over this way. And this looks like maybe a wooden box of some sort, like a container or a wooden box in this. Maybe it's a small wardrobe of some sort that's in the room. And there's some more angles here. Okay, so we have that. And maybe there's we can't see it, but over here on the right, beyond our picture, there might be some coat hangers and things, and there might be a couple coats or shawls or things on the side over here, so we have a little bit of that jutting into the picture. And then we're going to actually create the frame of the window. So this is going to be the jamb of the window, which means this is actually where the window sits inside the frame of the window, like that. And there's also the underside of the header of the window. So I just want to get the basic look of the window accurately. So you can see I'm trying to get the window accurately done here, captured. And then we have the panes of the window like this. So we can just go all the way down like this. I think that'll be fine if we just take these lines and sort of carry them down like this all the way through, but we are going to make a sash here halfway through. So let's see, this here is a little bit, the bottom of this window is actually hidden behind this portion here. So we're just talking, we're trying to get as accurate as possible our picture, our drawing, you know, our contour drawing, our sketch. We're trying to get this as accurate as we can to our photograph. Does this make sense? Because once we start painting, we won't be able to change things. We really want to have our pencil drawing accurate as much as possible. So that's why I'm kind of taking the time now and making, does that make sense? I'm taking my time now as I do my sketch, and we're doing our sketches together here. So I'm doing my sketches as accurate as possible that I can do according to the photograph. So I'm looking up at my photograph and I'm saying this halfway point of the window is actually a little further down because the bottom portion of this window is behind this. Like we said, this might be like a wardrobe of some sort, or a little chest, like a dark chest maybe that has a, you know, you can open it up and put things in its storage, whatever. So the window goes below this dark chest we're going to have painted in here. So be that as it may, we're going to start our sash in our window here. And then it goes up this way here, like that. And it's a little bit longer. So it's about as long as the pencil, using that just as a gauge or a measurement tool, my pencil. So this here is a full pencil. Now if I bring it down here, you can see about the black portion of the pencil here is hidden. So that's the bottom of the window actually here, but we don't see that. It's behind this small wooden chest or whatever's in here, this little small storage chest. So that looks very, very true to the picture we're drawing. This is very, very dark here, so this is all very, very dark. You can shade this in a little bit. You're going to paint this with extremely dark paint right here, like that. And then we're going to take make our lights, or our grills. We're going to make our grills in the paint in the windows here, the sashes of the windows. So they are like so, like that. And then this one is up here like this. This one is halfway. So if we take this point here and this point here and we say, what's the halfway point? You can kind of look at it and say, that's about halfway there. And then we'll just take this line and go up like that. And that's the grills of the window, like this. So these are the grills of the window. So already you can see we're getting the grills of the window in. And I'm hoping you're going to be able to pause the video once I'm done completing. Once we complete this whole painting, I'm hoping you'll pause on that and work from that and actually do your drawing and your painting from the finished painting. But again, also too, if you type in YouTube, if you type in Chris Petri, how to do a screen capture, you'll find my video on how to do a screen capture. And this way you can do a screen capture with either your iPhone, your Samsung phone, whatever cell phone you have. There might be a way to be able to look that up on YouTube. And again, YouTube is your best research. YouTube is like a giant dictionary of information that is never ending. So all you do is type in whatever model your phone or your device is or your computer is. Let's say you have a Dell computer, a Dell laptop. You type in Dell laptop, type in the laptop number you have. It might be like a Latitude or an Inspiron, whatever it is. You type that in. As simple as that, you type in the type of computer or cell phone or desktop computer, whatever you have, and say how to do a screen capture or how to do a screenshot. And you'll find that there's always going to be 10 or 20 or 50 videos on how to do it, because there's just hundreds and thousands of people out there making videos about how to do all different important tasks that we can use as artists, to use our electronic devices and our computers to help us with our artwork. It's real important. If you can use your computers and your phones and your electronic devices to help you with your art, you're going to be so much ahead of the game, because it really does get you to the next level as far as being able to create any kind of paintings you want from pictures, or pictures online that you find, or paintings online that you find, or you could screen capture YouTube videos like mine, or other videos that you find on YouTube that you really enjoy. So I'm just kind of mentioning that because I want to see you do your best work possible with your watercolors. So here we have it. We have our window, and we're going to continue with our we're doing our grills of our window. So now the grill we said was halfway. So our grill is halfway between the two sashes. So here's the top sash. Halfway between here and here is that grill. Then between here and where my small dash line I make, that's the full sash here. So that's about halfway. So let's look at what's halfway between here and here. About here. So then we do that. We take it and we make our... So this one is a little more angled this way. And as it comes down, this angle changes and goes more level like this. So if you can imagine, your angles in your window kind of get more steep as you go up like this. Can you see how that is? This top of the window up here is more of an angle here. Then as it comes down in the picture, it starts to turn and go this way, and the angle starts to get less steep or less angled. And basically, if I can just quickly explain that, basically this painting, it's just perspective, and you don't have to worry. You can always do extra studies on this type of stuff, perspective and different, 2-point, 3-point perspective and things like that. But if you can just imagine, everything is like a star pattern. So everything that you're working in is like this. It's a star pattern, right? So everything is a star pattern like this, right? So you have a star pattern. So then when you bring this star pattern over to here and you just look at the painting, you can kind of see how it follows that rule of the star pattern. If you're standing in a room and this is your eye level, and this is your eye level right here across the center, all the angles are going to follow this. And so you can see here the star pattern. Can you see how that works, the star pattern? So if we were to draw a point here in the center of the room and start drawing lines out like basically like a crosshair, and then all the angles in between, you're going to see that all the angles line up across like that. And in this case, it seems like we're at a lower angle. So we might be in this scene. It might look like we're sitting in a chair, and this might be our eye level here, and then we're seeing the angles like this, somewhat like that. But that star pattern is pretty much, if you put this star pattern onto any type of drawing or painting you're doing, you'll kind of see that if this is your eyesight, let's say this is you're standing here, this is your head, these are your shoulders here, like this. Okay, so if you're standing there and that's your eyesight, most of your angles are going to follow this star pattern. So if you're looking at buildings, your buildings on a street are going to follow this angle like that, like this. And the windows are going to follow those angles too. So if you have windows on the buildings, they're going to follow that angle. Can you kind of see how that is? So this is the eye level. And then maybe here they start to go level or a little bit this way. And then as they go lower, then they start to go this way. So if you think of it as windows on buildings on a street scene, you can kind of see how the angles fit in with that star pattern. So your point here is where you're looking, your eyesight. This is the center of your eyesight right here. And you have your center mark like that, and then everything follows those rules of angles like that. So your windows on the buildings are going to look like this. And as you get closer to your eye level, they're going to level out. And then eventually here they're straight. And then they start to go the other way with the angles like this. And you can kind of see, can you see that? So if these were buildings, you can kind of see how that works. These are buildings like that. So you can kind of see that's just one thing you can do in your paintings and in your drawings if you want, is to kind of like look at it from that perspective of where's my eyesight, where am I standing in the picture or sitting in the picture or viewing the picture from. And then you can kind of see wherever your head and your eyesight is, your eyes, your eye level, that's your eye level here. And then from there you go one like this, vertical, like that. And then everything runs off of that, those angles, like that. Buildings on this side would follow that same rule, like this. Then you have over here, you have your windows over here. So we're doing obviously a window over here in this interior space in this room, interior room here, but it follows if we were out in the street and we were looking at a street scene and we were walking or sitting, whatever, you're going to follow that same rule of angles. That's how our eyesight is. We see things from our eyesight, and our eyes basically can only view things so much before they start to distort and show things on angles, which is the natural way our eyesight works. So that's basically, you're seeing the way our vision works as human beings. Now if we were, a different species, maybe a dog or a cat or a fish or some other type of species, we might see these angles a little differently, but the human sees the angles like this. Our eyesight will take these angles and it becomes, in a sense, distorted, but this is really the way our eyesight and our vision works. So that's just a good thing to remember, just a real basic, not getting into intense details, but that's a basic kind of rule when you're looking at things outdoors or indoors, when you're doing scenes like that, anywhere, that wherever your eyesight is, you're going to always have your level line, your horizontal horizon line, your eye level, as they call it, eye level, and then from there you have your vertical line here, which is the center of your head or the center of your vision of your eyes, and then from there everything is a star pattern out this way. And then you can just take those lines out and you can see how all the tops of the windows work like this, and then when we're at the eye level, they're level, so the windows here are level, and then as they go down this way, you're going to see the level of the windows going this way. I hope I'm not going too much into detail, but this is a big help. If you can just have this one little sketch you do and put it in your folder in your studio about perspective, you'll have a great insight into how perspective works when you're kind of working in paintings and drawings and so forth. So I hope that is helpful. Wow, we took a big diversion, so we better take a break. All right, so let's take a break now. But I wanted to just kind of clear that up to help you with your artwork. That one quick sketch that I did will help you tremendously, so please do that sketch on a separate piece of paper and put that in your folder in your studio or in your room or in your box. Maybe you have a big crate of art stuff and you just throw it all in the crate, and then when you're ready to paint for the next day or the next week, you take out that crate, you take off the the plastic container, you take out all your art supplies, throw it on the table. That exercise we just did, this one here, if you have that with you in your crate, or if you have a table and you have all the stuff on your table, have a folder with this in the folder, and this way you can refer back to it, because it's going to really help you tremendously with your angles in your drawings and paintings. Okay? All right, I'll be right back, everybody. All right, we're getting back started again. We're giving you the whole enchilada of information here. I always mention, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. There's no strings attached. You can always unsubscribe at any time. It's as easy as clicking a button. But if you do subscribe on the right-hand side down below, all that means is you're going to get my videos. You'll be alerted on your YouTube channel when you open up your YouTube application, when you're going onto your phone or your computer. It'll just say Chris Petri has made a new video, and here it is, and it'll show you the little thumbnail of my video. And that's it. So there's no strings attached. I'm not going to be sending you any emails, or you're not going to be on any lists of email lists or anything like that. Subscribe on YouTube only means that YouTube's going to just send you a little quick, quick little informational message saying Chris Petri just made a new video, and here it is, and it puts it in your queue on your YouTube channel when you open up YouTube. That's all it is. So if you're subscribing below and clicking that button, you're just going to be alerted when my new videos come out. And I want you to have my new videos all the time so you can follow along. And if perhaps maybe a video you don't seem too interested in it because it's not your favorite subject matter, that's fine. We cover the same methods and techniques in watercolor on every video that we do here. So the main thing is, if you're watching every video, you don't have to necessarily paint every video and work on every one, but at least if you're watching them, you're going to get all that incredibly powerful information that's going to help you to be a better watercolor artist. Your paintings will be better, your drawings will be better, you'll be happier and more excited about your watercolors, because that's the key, that's the juice of life. If you can have watercolor as your fun, exciting, thrilling thing that you do in life, all the other stressors in life, you got family, different things like that, and work, and all these other things that go on that are stressful. But if you just have your watercolor time when you just lose track of everything else and you're just zoned in on watercolor and drawing and painting, that's your fun time, where you just forget about everything else and we're having fun here doing our paintings. So I'm hoping you're going to see it that way, and that's why I want you to have all my videos, so you can just keep following along and getting better and better at your watercolors. So these are some of the things we're covering, and this is a great interior painting. Let's continue on. So we have our drawing well along here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, you saw in the beginning of this video, you saw the finished painting, so you kind of know what we're working with here. So there's a door in this room that's straight across from us. If we're standing right here in the room and we're looking straight ahead like this, there's a door here, and then there's the window off over here on the right, and we got that in. So we're halfway done already with this drawing. The next thing we do is we say, all right, where is the top of this door? You may ask, where is it? Well, let's take a look. Let's go over here and say, well, if I take it and I hold my pencil up in front of my eyesight and I look at my picture, so you always want to use your pencil as your measuring tool. Your pencil is your measuring tool, or your pen if you're doing pen drawing, but most of the time we're using pencil. So what you want to do is you always want to use your pencil and kind of hold it up and look at it and hold it up to your picture that you're working from, or your iPhone, or your computer screen, your iPad, your home computer, your TV set, whatever it is you're working from. Or if you're just working from like a picture from a book, whatever it is, you're going to use your pencil and hold your pencil up in front of your eyes and kind of see the angles in front of you and say, where is that angle, or where is that top of the door on that picture? So you look at it and go, okay, well, here it is. Well, if the window's over here, where is the top of the door in relation to that window we just drew on the right-hand side? So I look at that and I say, okay, well, let me hold that up. And I notice that it's actually just a little bit above this grill on the window, about here. So it's about a little bit above this grill, this parallel horizontal grill on the window. So I'm going to take that and then transfer it over here and say that's about the top of that door. Now I'm going to say another quick question to myself, and you're going to ask the same question to yourself. You're going to say, well, okay, now I have the top of the door in this painting. Okay, where is the side of the door? This side of the door over here. There's obviously two sides to the door. The jamb of the door is over here, right? The right side jamb of the door. Where is that in comparison to this window that we already drew and have down on our paper, which this is locked in. This is something we can work from. So now this is our rock solid part of the painting. We've already figured out every location of how this window fits into this painting. It's all set and good. We did all that hard work. Now we're going to use this window as our guide to get to the rest of the painting. So as you can see, we got the pencil line. We held up our pencil in front of the picture and said, okay, on that picture I'm looking at in front of me, I'm looking with my pencil and I'm kind of eyeing it up and saying, oh, all right, okay, yeah, that pencil, there it is. It lines up about there. And we went over and we got the top of our door. Now we say, all right, well, how about the jamb of the door, the right side jamb of the door? Where is that compared to the door, to the window? So I look over and I say, well, it's about, let me hold that up in front of me. So I hold up my pencil and look at the picture. And I say to myself, it's the same width as this window over this way. So then all I have to do is say, this window, the width of this window here is the same width as the door jamb, and that's right there. Does that make sense? Can you see how I did that? So when I held up my pencil and I looked at the painting or the picture in front of me or the computer screen in front of me, and I looked at it and I held my pencil up and kind of looked across, and then I said, all right, how wide is that space between the jamb of the door and the window? Well, it's about the same distance as the width of the window. So I just get the width of the window, use my pencil as a measuring tool and say, okay, here's my pencil. And then my right hand is very important, so this is where I'm going to hold it, and that's the width of the window there to the end of the pencil to my hand, and I just go over that much, and there we have it, the edge of the door this way. Then we can just take that down, and I look and I see that in the room, it's just a touch above the bottom of the painting for the bottom of the door. So that's pretty simple. And if you want, you can just hold up your pencil and say, okay, all right, how much space is between the bottom of the door to the bottom of the painting? Easy enough. You can take anything over here on this side of the painting and use that as your gauge. So you could go over here and say, all right, let me look at the window and say, how wide is that space? And you could just basically say, well, it's about this actually. It's about this much here, just the glass of the window. So it's about just the width of the glass of the window. And that looks about good. Okay, now I say to myself, where's the left-hand side of this door? Let's go across here. And it's about this much. So that's the door in this picture. And then we have a canteen or something hanging on the wall over here. And then we have some trim around the door. So I'm going to make some trim around the door, like that. So we make a little bit of trim around the door, like so. And then there's some darks over here. That could be a shadow like that. Could be a mystery shadow, no problem. And now we just look and we say, okay, where's the floorboards? How many floorboards do we have? And then we just say, well, there's about, and again, I look across from me on my painting and say, how many floorboards are there? And I count them. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 floorboards. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can kind of see this one is straight, the floorboard here. So there's floorboards, and there may be 8 inches wide, 8, 16, 24, 32. So these are probably about 8-inch floorboards. This one here, the angle is straight here, and then as it goes to the right, they slowly angle out this way, following that star pattern again, approximately. So now we have the angles of the floorboards. And this is the wall, and this goes over here too. That parallel line across, that's the bottom of the wall over here. Now, we are really coming along with plenty of progress. Let's see, we're going to have, the door is going to be it's going to have a couple panels in the door, so we can just kind of roughly make them like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can kind of see how I drew a couple panels in the door here, like this, like that. And then there's a couple bottom panels, like so. They're basically the same as up above. And there's a knob on the door here, like that. And again, we're going to do most of the work with the watercolors, so we're going to remember that. Then over here by the window, we are going to have a bucket. And a handle on the bucket, so this is a nail. There's a nail alongside the window. And I think actually I made this a little too close to the window. Let's erase this. If you have an issue, just a kneaded eraser. We're going to make this bucket this way a little more. Like that. And then up here, we're going to have a few other little sort of mystery shapes. So I'm just going to add those in. And then I think we are looking good. So one more thing we're going to do is we're going to add some shadowing. So I'm going to look at the shadows in the room. So there's a shadow across the door here. And there's, what else do we have? This here, another shadow there. Looks like a mystery shadow. There's another mystery shadow here. There's some darks over here. And we're going to get most of this with the paint when we paint, but let's get ourselves set up for this really fantastic, beautiful painting where we're doing tons of light and dark shadows in this interior space. And these are fun. If you can do some interior spaces once in a while, you're going to have a great time of it. It's a lot of fun to do. And so I'm just trying to okay, and then we have up here, I make a little bit of a mark here. There's going to be a little bit of some light up here. I might scratch this out with our fingernail, a little bit of light as we paint some darks up here in the ceiling area. We might scrape out a little bit of light here. There's maybe a beam or some kind of trim or molding up top on the ceiling area that's catching some light. So we're going to do a little bit of that. And other than that, we have some barn wood. So this might be an old rustic type house or barn of some sort where we can kind of see some lines in here. So that's basically the long and short of it. Is we're doing a really fun interior. And I think that's it. I think we have everything pretty much all set now. The drawing is complete. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll start painting, and you'll see how everything comes together and looks really, really good. We're creating some beautiful light on this interior space with some dark shadows. So with dark shadows and light, you're going to just really have a fun time seeing that really powerful dynamic of dark and light inside of an interior space like this. Okay, so we're going to come right back and we'll get started. Hey everybody, just a quick informational. I'm really excited. I've been invited to the Thousand Island Arts Center to teach a workshop this summer. It's August 9th, 10th, and 11th, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And it's a daytime workshop, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. I'm going to put up the itinerary in just a second, too, as well. But I wanted you to have the Thousand Island Arts Center phone number so you can call to register. Or you can also register online. That's up to you. Their phone number is 315-686-4123. Again, their phone number is 315-686-4123. Or you can also register and look up all the information online at TIARTSCENTER.org. Again, their website is TIARTSCENTER.org. I'll put the itinerary up here so you can I'll scroll it. I'm not going to read it. I'll just kind of scroll it up so you can kind of see the class description. And you can look this up online too. I encourage everybody to look for the brochure. If you go to the website, you'll see a brochure button. You click on that brochure button, you'll see my course, as well as other courses if you can't happen to make these dates, but you still want to take a watercolor class or watercolor course and workshop. And there's also an online course for watercolor artists. So if you're interested in doing online watercolor courses, they have those as well. That's something this is a great resource, everyone, for your watercolor art. I know some of you mentioned that you wanted to inquire about online art and watercolor painting classes. I'm not doing them right now. I'm really looking forward to maybe in the future doing some online courses, but right now I'm just not geared up for that right now. So they have them though for those that want to do online courses. But just a great resource, and beautiful historic area, beautiful scenery, water and boats everywhere, beautiful architecture, shopping. There's museums. So that's the itinerary. And I hope you'll all make it out to the workshop. And again, we're going to have a great time, tons of fun drawing and painting in watercolor. So I hope to see you there. And let's get back to our watercolor painting. All right, we're getting started again, and now we're going to start putting in our washes. This is going to be a glazing technique style painting, so we're going to actually do a beautiful underwash here, a first glazing, a very, very light color, and you're going to see how we're going to do this. So I'm going to take this, we have a very simple Princeton and Brush Company flat brush, square brush. It's a 5/8 inch flat brush, and this is synthetic hairs, which means it's going to hold less water, which is an advantage if you're just starting out in watercolor. It's a beautiful advantage to have synthetic brushes. They're less expensive for one, and that's good because if you're just starting out, you might not want to spend all that much money on really fancy brushes, and you can always study up on fancy brushes as you go. So maybe your first couple of years of watercolor painting, you're starting out and you're using some synthetic brushes in the beginning. And then you might start studying about natural hair brushes like Kolinsky sable brushes and so forth. And then you can start purchasing those if you feel like you want to move up to those next level brushes. But in the beginning, it's perfect to use synthetic brushes. And again, they work great for beginners because they don't hold as much water. So when you go in and start mixing washes, you're going to have less water in your brush, which means you won't flood your paper out with too much water or flood out your palette with too much water in there. So I find that synthetic brushes are perfect for the beginners, the extreme beginners. And since we're doing this extreme beginner series on this video, we're going to have that in our minds that synthetic brushes are absolutely fantastic and they're inexpensive and you can use them, very successfully. So the only thing I would say here is maybe this one, you can find synthetic brushes like this one in a little larger size. This one here is a little larger, same thing, synthetic. This happens to be, I think, I don't even know anymore. The writing is worn off the brush. This might be, trying to think who makes this brush. This might be a Sterling Edwards synthetic brush. So if you look up Sterling Edwards, or if you go to there's different websites you can look up, art websites like Cheap Joe's Art Stuff or Blick's Art Supplies online, you might be able to find a Sterling Edwards synthetic flat brush like this. And it's a little bit larger, you can see. So we kind of need something a little bit larger here than this 5/8 inch. This is like a 1 inch brush here. Let me see if it is. It might not be quite 1. It's like 3/4 maybe. So it's like a 3/4 inch to a 1 inch synthetic flat brush. So let's use this to do our first overwash. I'm going to change out my water, make sure I have clean, fresh water. So I just empty my water container, put in some fresh, clean water. And then what I'll do is we're going to make a nice yellow ochre color. So that's going to be, we'll use orange and yellow here to get a yellow ochre looking color. Like that. So that looks kind of yellow ochre. Maybe a little more orange, maybe a touch of brown, a little more yellow. You kind of mix it until you find that kind of nice mixture. Maybe a touch of red, like that. I think that looks good. I think that looks like yellow ochre or raw sienna, close to it. So then I'm going to use that color. And if you always notice, I kind of always, even though I'm using this Prang watercolor set here, I relate it to my normal paints that I always use on an everyday basis. My more everyday paints that I use are Winsor & Newton paints, the tube paints, or Holbein. So I use Holbein and Winsor & Newton exclusively, pretty much for the most part. So I'm used to all of those colors and all of the names of those colors. So when I'm looking at this Prang set here, I'm not going to memorize their list of colors that come with the set. I'm just going to look at it as the colors I'm used to that I've been working with for 15 years. So if you can imagine, if you stick with the same colors you use all the time in your watercolor painting, if you stick with the same colors over and over and over again for many, many years, you'll just have it all memorized, and you'll just know, okay, let me mix a yellow ochre, and then you're just going to automatically grab colors and start mixing, and you'll just kind of be able to mix the color because you can look at it and say, yeah, I've been working 15 years or 10 years or 5 years, and I kind of just know what that's going to look like. And then that might be a little bit too brown, so then I go back in and get some yellow, and I say, yeah, that's more like yellow ochre, like that. Too brown, this is more like yellow ochre. And then we just take some more water, splash some water in here, and we're going to do an undercoating of yellow ochre on the whole page, like this. So if you can imagine, I'm just going to load up my brush with plenty of, and especially over here in the window, we want to have tons of this yellow ochre wash on the window because that's where the light's coming from. The light's coming through the window. And then just get a light wash of that yellow ochre color. Orange, yellow, so I'm using orange and yellow and brown to get that yellow ochre color. Like that. A little bit of brown, orange, yellow. And then you can kind of keep mixing it until you get it right. And that looks like good, like that. And you can cross hatch it. Just get the whole painting with a bit of that yellow ochre wash, like this. Can you see that? That's all I'm doing, is just getting this light yellowish wash on the whole paper. Cross hatching it, but not flooding it out too much. I don't want to go with too much water, just enough to get it coated. So we're doing a whole coating of that. Okay, now once that's done, you're going to see that that's just perfect to have that warm light coming through the window. And if you have to, it's all going to dry lighter. So this is all going to dry much lighter. It looks a little bit dark now, but you can also lift up with a little bit of tissue in the windows, in the glass window area, just to get that a little bit lighter maybe. So you can just lift up a little bit in that area if you want. And you just keep changing around your tissue so that you don't keep using the same part of the tissue to get up some of that paint, but I think that's good. So if I lighten up that little bit of area where the window panes are, that gives it a little more light, a little more brighter looking light. And after that, we're all set. So now we're just going to let this dry. So we're going to take another break, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. If you want, you can use a blow dryer to blow dry your painting. I think that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to blow dry this, and this way I can keep working so we can all kind of conserve on our time. I know you're very busy, you have things to do, so you want to sort of move along at a good pace too. So you can use a hair dryer or a blow dryer to blow dry this first wash so that it dries pretty fast, and then you can immediately start going over the top of it with subsequent washes, darker washes. So this is the first glazing, very, very light wash of all yellow ochre type wash. Now once we're done with this, we let this dry. We can blow dry it or let it sit for a couple hours. So if you want to go and do some things for a couple hours, or maybe 4 or 5 hours, and come back and start painting, perfect. Or if you want to use a blow dryer and then blow dry this till it's pretty dry to the touch. Maybe it takes about 2 minutes to use a blow dryer. 2 minutes, and then it's nice and dry, and then you can start putting over your other washes. Okay, so we'll be right back, and we'll start doing our darker washes. Okay, we are back, and I'm going to use my Princeton 5/8 inch square brush now, flat brush. We did the first wash, the preliminary wash, the first glazing with a larger flat brush here, square brush. And you could do it with a smaller brush, but if you can use a larger brush, you're going to get this done a lot quicker, and it kind of saves you the headache of going back and forth, back. If you can do it with a larger brush, you're better off. But you work with what you have. If you have to save up a little bit of, to get a larger brush eventually, you do that, and you just work with what you have. But now that we're pretty much have this whole paper glazed over with a very, very light yellow ochre type wash, which is kind of like an orangey yellow with a little bit of brown in there too, you're all set. Now the thing is, we're going to start going in and getting our darks in. Let's get our really, really darks in next, and then we'll start working into our middle tonal values. So we're going with extreme lights first, our first glazing. Let that dry. You can either blow dry it or let it dry a couple hours or more so that it's dry to the touch, and then you can start working on it again. So it's up to you if you want to blow dry it with a hair dryer, or if you want to let it dry naturally for like 2 to 3 hours. Up to you. If you put it out in the sun or by a window with sunlight coming through the window, it'll dry pretty fast as well too, maybe within 15-20 minutes. So let's get our darker washes in next. So what are we going to do for darker washes? Let's get in some black here. Let's leave this black up here at the top of the palette, because black is this black in this Prang set. This is our Prang Oval 16 set. Just so everybody knows, we have the Extreme Beginner series. We're using the Prang Oval 16 watercolor set. It's semi-moist watercolors. And what we do is we use this set. It's a perfect set. Semi-moist colors. All you have to do is take a spritzer bottle like this, Spritz it a couple times on your paints before you start, and 5 minutes later it's all ready to go. Perfect, ready to paint. So that's the Prang Oval 16 watercolor set. That's what we're using. And the watercolor set here, the black is very, very strong, so we're just knowing that we have to let's keep that black up here on the top, and then we'll start working our way down. We'll put in some brown and some reds and oranges. Let's get a warmer, and some blues and purples. So I'm using purple and blue to kind of have that feel of a darker with a little bit of black mixed in there, but it's a little more warmer. And we need some blue. Let's continue on. Let's do some blue. And we'll pick up some of this and just mix that in like that so we have a bluish. So there you can see our continuum of colors. We have black, which is that real, real dark, just black by itself up here. Then we mixed in a little bit of black with some reds and blues here. And then here we got a little more blue, cooler color, more of a cooler blue. And that's all you have to really do, is kind of get those three variations there and you're all set. So again, straight black from right here up in this area. We rinse our brush, we dry it off on some tissue, and then we start going in and we get over here, we start mixing some other reds and oranges for a warmer black, a warmer, darker color, I should say, with some blues and purples. And you can be a little creative with this. You don't have to do everything exactly the way I'm doing it. You know, you just get some warmer colors here. So you got black, and then you got some warmer reds and oranges like that. And then here, you rinse off the brush, dry it off on the tissue, and you go in and you get some blues and greens like that. Blues and greens. And then you have three beautiful variations of some dark colors. And we're going for the really, really dark darks now. If you can remember that. We did the first wash, super light. The yellow ochre color, which is basically yellow, orange, and a little bit of maybe brown. So these three, brown, yellow, which is the light lemony yellow, and then an orange. You mix all the three of those together till you get like a nice yellowish, warm yellow. And then you're all set. You have your yellow ochre type color. That's the first wash. You let that dry. You use a hair dryer, or you put this by a window with the sunlight until it dries pretty much 99% dry. And then now you're going in with the darks. So now with the darks up here, you're just going to start putting in the darks with your large square brush. Can you see what I'm doing there? And then you pick up some other cool, darker, maybe some reddish darks. So now, and what I see is that these darks are really can you see how I'm getting that shape up there? So I'm going to I'm just going to try to start getting in the darks, and then you can rinse the brush, take a tissue, dry off the brush a little bit, not too much water, and then you can sort of blend this edge in a little bit, like that. And then you add a little bit of brown down here with a little bit of orange maybe. And you start getting in some browns and the dark colors, the blacks, the dark brown, black. And I'm going to go around that bucket there. And the bucket has a really, really dark going across. There's a shadow on that bucket like that. So I'm going to try to start following the dark patterns. So the best bet is to start to try to follow your darkest dark patterns by using your blacks and your, like that. So I'm just using my darkest darks here. And then there's some darks down here. And I'm using the very, very corner of the brush here to do a little detail work. Like that. Okay, so just get your dark patterns in first, your really, really dark patterns. Don't worry about the middle tones. We'll do those later. Just get your darkest darks in first. Find those and get those in. That's your real modus operandi. You want to get your darkest darks in first, if that makes sense. So I'm going with my blacks, like that, like that. Like that. Okay, I might have let that, we'll add some highlights later. And then we're going to start moving into this over here. Again, let's get our darks in. And then we start moving into our mediums, our medium tonal values. So now this starts to lighten up a little bit. A little bit of more blue. Then we start picking up some blue over here. This is dark. Again, look at the photographs, look at my picture, look at my painting. Look at my painting and find where you see the darkest darks. And that's all you have to do. Find the dark darks. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm finding the darks. I might mix in a little bit of brown with those darks. I don't want to keep everything looking too the same. And a little bit of blues too, remember? We have some blues in here. Let's do some blue and darks. Blue, mix in your warm and cool colors everywhere. And then we have some more really, really dark darks over here, which is like this, next to the door. And again, I always mention you're really doing the dark patterns. Follow the, just do the darks, don't worry about anything else. We'll smooth all that other stuff in later. And then we have, this is a dark dark here. Okay. Okay, you can use a little finger painting here and there. Try to, over here is a little bit of a lighter wash, like that. And then we have darks over here too as well. Again, find those darks, get them in. Dark of the door. Then we have more darks, black. Rinse off the brush. Dry off the brush a little on the tissue, go in, get some of those browns. And we're going to start getting some of those darker darks over here. Like that. And I just take out some little bit of highlights like that. Like that. And then we smooth that out with a little lighter, just like that. You could tap with some tissue to lighten up a couple areas, like that. But for the most part, that's really, really dark over here. Like that. Then there's some more dark over here. And then there's a dark window pane up here. Black, brown. Let's do that. I'm painting over the tape, so don't worry about that. That's just the tape here. Okay, now this door is very cool, like this. So I rinse off my brush completely. I empty my water. Keep changing out your water. You're better off having clean water than not. You're better off changing your water out a lot than not changing it. So then here we have some blue. This is lighter blue. And we scrub this across like this. And there's a good strong line like that across the door. Can you see that? Like that. Okay, and then we have some of that blue over here. And put a little bit of that green. We have a little bit of that Viridian type green. Get a new tissue, a nice fresh clean tissue, blot up some tissue. Maybe we're going to start doing a little bit of some texture, splashing, maybe a couple splashes here and there. Like that. Just a couple splashes here and there to give some texture to everything. And then you have blue. Here you have some blue. Like that. Get some of that lighter wash there. Then we get a little bit darker blue. Let's do some darker blue here. Purple, maybe some purple and darker blue. Touch of that darker black. Like that. We want to get that strong line there of shadow. Like that. And this is where you just have fun. You flick on the paint, get the paint on there. We have some brown. You could also get a little bit of and we're going to go over more details in a little while. Okay, can everyone see how we're really working here and how we're doing this? Super light ochre, yellow ochre color first for the light glazing over the first wash, the first glazing, so that we just basically give our painting a light yellowish color, which is like the sunlight color, the beautiful color of sunlight, yellow ochre. Then once that dries 100%, now we're going in, we're doing all our darks, our super darks. And you can see I did all my super darks first. And now we're just going to let this sit and set up a little bit and dry. And then what we'll do is, after this, we're just going to finish up with our final details. So you can just really see that. I'm trying to just get a couple more things in. I might try to add a little more dark there. But other than this, you're going to be pretty much set. And the thing is now, when you have this done, this much done here, when you have this much done, when you have all of this completed now, which is your when you have all of this completed, then you're pretty much set. Then we'll just go back in and get some. I'm just going to do a couple of things like that, a couple splashes. So some mystery things over here on the right-hand side. A couple splashes here. And best thing now is to let this dry 100%. Once you have that dry 100%, which is your second glazing, that's what we've done here. This is our second glazing. Once you have that done, I'll make that a little darker there. So I'm just kind of working things and kind of assessing and saying, what do I need to make a little darker? And that's all really. You can do a little nail scratching here and there to try to get some extra details in there, right? That always looks good. We'll get some other details into as well. A couple splashes. A couple splashes in the window area. Just a couple, that's it. And let's come back and we'll finish up. We're going to do our final details next, and you'll have a finished painting. And we'll cover again, we'll just do a recap of how we got to this point, what we did to get here, the different glazings that we did. We're using the glazing techniques again. So here when you have the glazing technique, basically there's a process you're following, a method you're following, and we're covering it here on our channel every week after week, month after month, and year after year. If you stay here and if you subscribe on the button below, if you click on subscribe, you won't miss a thing. So I always say, please, consider subscribing. This way you're not going to miss anything. But if you follow all these techniques over the weeks and months and years, you're going to wind up painting beautiful watercolors, and you'll be extremely happy with that. I don't think you're going to want to settle for anything less than being able to really confidently go in and paint paintings your way. And you're the artist, so you know where your goal is. You want to be able to paint beautiful watercolor paintings. So that's why I'm just mentioning it to you. We're going to cover it all here, give you all the methods, all the techniques, and then from that point, you'll be able to do it. Okay? So we'll be right back. We'll finish up on this painting, and you'll see the finished product. All right, we are going to finish up our painting here. We're going to do the fine details now. The thing I mentioned is when you're painting a painting like this, you have to remember that the darks create the lights. So in the beginning, when we painted all that yellow ochre on our first glazing, that was the first wash. We let that dry 100%. Then we came in next and did our darkest darks, which was we mixed some black paint. This is our black color here. And all, you know, from my perspective, I call this like an ivory black, which is more of a warmer black. And I put that black up here on the top of the palette. That's the darkest dark I have. I'm going to put that up here and keep it kind of separated because it's so strong. It can really darken up anything else that you use. So you want to keep this dark black kind of separated in its own section here of your palette. Then you might dip into it and darken up some other colors, but you have to be really careful. So that's the main thing I wanted to kind of mention as we're moving on here to do our final details. But just that's a good thing to keep in mind. Now, since we are moving on here, let's seriously consider, let's clean our palette, because when you have a lot of different colors and washes in your palette, that can really affect your final details in your painting on a painting like this. So we want to make sure we get exactly the colors and washes we want. So if you have all these other colors in your palette and then you're trying to get your other washes according to what you're looking at as far as your photograph or your picture online that you're using, or if you're using my painting, whatever it is, you don't want to have it contaminated with other colors. So you want to make sure you have a clean palette that you're working with. So I'm going to change my water one more time. Get fresh, clean water now that we're doing our final details. Again, I'm changing my water frequently. Then I'll dip in some paper towels into my fresh, clean water, and then I'll just, you know, get this palette a little bit cleaner so that whatever colors we're mixing from here in on out are going to look fresh and clean, and that should be good. I'll just do it one more time here with another piece of paper towel. Just like that. Now we have a good working surface, clean. We can see the colors that we need to mix. I'm going to use my Simply Simmons round brush that has a really good point on it. Synthetic brush, Simply Simmons. And again, we always talk about when you're starting out with watercolor, these are inexpensive brushes. You know, this brush might be $4 or $5. You know, you start out with this. It's a synthetic brush too, which means it's not going to have too much excessive water when you rinse it and you use it, so that you won't be flooding your paper with too much water. So synthetic brushes are great for when you're just starting out. Enough said on that. Let's finish up our details here. So you can see, again, basically the modus operandi is super light wash first over the whole painting, an under wash, or you could call it a glazing, or you could call it a priming of your watercolor paper if you're an oil painter, or if you painted in oils before, you realize that they always, most oil painters will glaze or prime their paintings with an undercoat of painting, like an undercolor, like, you know, they paint on a light wash of color on their canvas, and then they let that dry, and then they paint over the top. We're doing the same thing here with the watercolor glazings. We're using the glazing technique. Our first glazing is that really light yellow ochre type color on the whole paper. We let it dry 100%. We use a blow dryer to dry it, or we let it dry naturally. Then when we're done with that, we go in and we do our super dark darks first on top of that dry wash of the yellow ochre, and we get this type of look here. Once you get this type of portion of your painting completed, where you have your darkest darks done, and you've looked at your photograph or your painting that you have on your phone or your laptop or your home computer, and you try to get the darkest darks you can first, get those all in. Then the last step now is the third part, the third glazing, which is your final detailed glazings or washes. So let's do that. So now we're going to go in and we want to mix in here another bit of yellow ochre. So we're going to mix yellow ochre, which is this lemony yellow, touch of orange, and a little bit of burnt umber, or darker, or like a brownish color. And that is pretty much, you might have to add a little bit of, and that looks good. That looks like a good yellow ochre right there. Then let's add some burnt umber over here, and then add some more of the same. Maybe some red in there too. More brown. And then we have a good kind of a brownish, reddish brown color. Looks good. That's almost like a burnt sienna. And then we get some of that blue in here. And we just make some blue over here. For the warm and cools, we want to have some blue. And you can take some of this and mix it in with your blue to gray it down a little bit. You might want to gray that blue down a little bit now. And that's it. Now you have mixed, before you even start going back into the painting, you've mixed your colors that you want. You've looked at your painting and across from you, whatever you're looking at, your subject matter, your painting, your book. You maybe have a book you're working from, or you have a video you're working from, you're on pause, or you're working from a screen capture, screenshot, whatever it is. You have that in front of you and you're saying, okay, now I'm going to start mimicking or matching the colors to what I see in front of me. And then so you mix out onto your palette pretty much as best as you can the colors you're seeing in front of you. And also too, you just remember that the colors are going to dry a little lighter. So maybe you might make it a little darker than you might normally think it might be, because watercolors do dry lighter. So if you put it on the paper, it's going to lighten up quite a bit. And that's about the only thing we really have to worry about. Going a little bit darker than you might think when you're painting your details here. Your darks, you just know. You're just going super darks. You've got that. That's not a problem. But your lighter tonal values, your lights, you got to be a little more careful with those. You want to make them a little darker than you would think. And then let's do that. Let's start getting in some good. Here I'm just going over the grills of the window. Okay, with some light wash. Like that. Some light wash. And again, this is fun here. Have fun with this. This is your fun part when you're finishing up your painting. You've got all the hard work done now. So now you're just going in and looking at this and just saying, okay, I'm just going to have a good time with this. And, you know, you're going to get in some of these lighter tonal values with that yellow ochre color. You put a little bit here, a little bit there. You might add in a little bit of that bluish gray. Put a little bit of the bluish gray there. There's that bucket there. So if you have to lighten up a little bit on that, you can take a tissue, roll up your tissue into a little bit of a, you make yourself a little bit of a bunch of tissue here, and then you can lift up a little bit of paint to get a little bit of the light, like that. Then you go in and get a little bit of the dark. Like that. And then we have a little dark there. Like that. And that's a bucket that's on the side here on the wall. And you don't have to worry too much about it. It kind of just flows in there with the other stuff here that we have. Okay, so we have some of those yellow ochre washes on the panes, the grills of the window. And let's focus in on the windows now. We can see that there's kind of a dark, and there's some cool within the darks. So we have some blue. So let's do that. Let's make some blue like that. So we have some cool darks, so that might be like a Payne's gray. And you have your brown and blacks over here, which is your dark. Like that. So you have an ivory black basically and a Payne's gray that you're going to use. So if you're working with my standard palette, those of you that work on my standard palette all the time, this would be a Payne's gray. This would be a Payne's gray here, and this would be your ivory black, which is a warmer black. And this is a cooler black with more blue in it. So these two you can use to do your final washes along here like that. So you're just going to do some final interesting and then and you can see I'm just getting some quick strokes in here, brush strokes. Okay, and then we want to get some interesting, this has a great, can you see how fine pointed that is? This Simply Simmons brush. So I'm able to get that really good details, fine sharp lines. Then you can take a couple darks and put a couple darks in there, and then fade them out like this. And then we have over here another little, I might take this and add a little bit of water and then splash over here like that, just texture. I'm thinking texture here and there. Like that, a couple of splashes. You might want to mix up a little more darks there, and then you just come down a little more here. Like that. This might give you a stronger dark along, so you add some more black. Rinse off the brush good, dry off on the paper towel a little bit, get in some browns there. And then you want to kind of make another maybe darker dark line here. Like that. And you might want to just straighten that out a little bit. Then I mix up some black in there, dry off a little bit with the brush. Okay, so now I'm starting to get in some of these darker darks over here. Like that. Maybe a little bit of green. Gradient green. Then we go in with some browns and blacks, and we'll make the door, and then not too fancy. Get in some of these door details like that, but not too much, right? A little bit at a time. Okay, so you kind of see how we develop our, like that. These are the shadows of the window panes going across the picture. And then we have another one there. Like that. Okay, so we have some of these lines here going across, the shadow lines. Black, brown. Rinse off the brush so we don't contaminate all our colors. Blue, black, brown, blue. And then we try to get those angles across there like that. Okay, that is good. If you can get those angles going across the picture like that, even with the lines of the window, like so, that's going to really help a lot. And then you might have a mystery color here. A couple splashes on the floorboards maybe. And some orange, yellow, orange. Here and there you add a little bit of that orange and yellow. A little bit of that baskety kind of feel there. With some texture. We have that there. And then maybe a little bit of more details to the doorway here. So I'm going to put some doorway details like that. Then I'm going to just go across here to the left. And that is just basically some barnwood, so they might be the interior. Like that. And that's, I think we really have everything looking pretty good. And maybe a couple little details here and there, if you can kind of And I'll take straight black paint, just like that, just to, for the foreground here. Like that, and I just kind of rub that in a little bit. Like that. And I'm going to get those darkest darks in one more time so that I can kind of see where my darkest darks are. And that's it. And there we have it, a beautiful interior painting, a gorgeous window with some bright light coming through into this interior scene. I hope you had fun doing this. We'll just peel off the tape a little bit here and see how our painting looks when we put a crisp, clean border around it. And I think that does look really good. So thank you so much for coming by. If you're brand new and you've never been to this site before, I just want to thank you for coming by. Please remember, this is watercolor. It takes a little bit of time to learn, but if you just stick with it every week, week after week, and month after month, and year after year, you're going to get better and better. Every time you're picking up your pencils and your brushes and your paints, you'll be able to do these type of paintings with no problem after working on these type of paintings week after week and month after month. And then, you know, by a couple of years' time, you'll be able to create paintings like this pretty well. It won't be a difficult task because you've practiced the techniques over and over again. And that's why I always say on this channel, we go over the same methods and techniques over and over and over again, just different subject matter. So this week it might be an interior, next week it's flowers, the week after it's boats, the week after that it might be figure painting, and then the week after that it might be street scenes or maybe some landscape paintings. So, but we always do the same methods and techniques over and over. So here you'll learn the techniques of how to do all of the primary things you need to learn for watercolor to get yourself good results, okay? So I always mention, please, if you haven't subscribed, right on the right-hand side down here below, hit the subscribe button. There's no strings attached. All it is when you subscribe, you're going to be notified that my videos are coming out on the day that and the hour that I create a new video. And that's it, basically. So, and you can always unsubscribe to if you want to after a couple weeks or a month or whatever if you're not happy with the channel. But I think you'll be happy with this channel, and we're all here trying to just improve week after week and month after month and year after year. And so we'll see you on the next video. And again, thanks so much for coming by, painting along, and we'll see you on the next video, and happy painting, everybody.